All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode. That's right, of the London is Blue podcast. Hopefully, favorite Chelsea podcast out there, and a part of the Men in Blazers Media Network. Dan, one of your hosts here, alongside Sam, and it now is officially 100% the last match preview of Chelsea's 24-25 season for what I will call competitive competition, even though we do have the Club World Cup. So I'm going to count that as a special period for when we do things for that. But this is the end of a long season of match previews that we have done. And this one is for the Europa Conference League final. Real Betis, Chelsea Football Club, an opportunity to stake our claim, to get another piece of silverware to put in the cabinets that are just overflowing, unlike some clubs in London, with a amazing amount of trophies, and to complete the new updated European set of trophies. Sam, as you're heading into this one, it's the last opportunity to really put a cherry on top of the end of the season that we feel so much better about, knowing that we beat Nottingham Forest this past weekend, that we're back in the Champions League next year. The vibes are strong, the mood is good, and this would be just a perfect way to end this part of the season, this part of the year for Chelsea.
I think the sealing the UCL qualification definitely makes a huge difference in terms of just mentality, in terms of how we go into the match. Just the perfect shot in the arm, Dan. So the entire outlook of the game for me changes as well. Obviously, getting your centre forward back for this one is also a big plus. And even if you're tired, it's just invigorating to go in with that burden sort of off your chest, saying, okay, we've done what we need to do in terms of like our objectives for the season. So just go out there, play your game. And you've been essentially very good through the tournament, barring like a couple of small blips. And you should be able to do the one last step required to go and put, the one trophy that's missing from your trophy cabinet. So quite optimistic, but I think just that end of season run, like you mentioned, putting all those important results together, Liverpool, the one against Forest, should basically hold us in good stead.
It is right, and I believe what you should have been saying is it is the opportunity to go one step beyond in Chelsea Football Club fashion here with a result in this fixture. Again, it is a Real Betis match. It is the Europa League Conference Final. The end for both of these teams and the seasons that they had. We're going to talk a little bit about Betis, how they've been getting on, what are some strengths they've had this season, what are some of the weaknesses. We have a couple listener questions in there that we're going to get into. Then we're going to flip the script, a couple of Maresca-esque questions. What does he have to answer? And typically Sam gives me the questions, but he pulled a couple of listener ones out there. And then a few and final on the ledge predictions for this one. And so, Sam, as we're just jumping right into it, taking a look at Real Betis, taking away at how they finished the season here in La Liga. So, ultimately a team that you finished sixth. So, I mean, they are qualified for, Europa League next season as a part of just their league form that they had. Finished on 60 points in La Liga. They finished behind Villarreal, Athletic Club, Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, and Barcelona. Very far behind the league leaders, as it were. 28 points difference between sixth place and first place in the league. How did you find maybe the last couple of matches that you've watched to just set a baseline for how this team is playing that really limped through the end of their season, if we're just going to be maybe honest about it? Whereas if you look at the trajectory, Chelsea finished on a very strong end of the season. Real Betis did not do the same thing.
The key for me, Dan, you mentioned that the fact that they limped towards the end of the season, they didn't have anything to play for, essentially. And, when we were going into the semi-finals, it did look like they were building up some serious momentum. I think that one run of games, they had 4 in a row, including like a 5-1 win over Real Valladolid. And then you thought, okay, wow, they've beaten Fiorentina, they look good, all their players tend to be hitting form at the right time. And then suddenly to end the season, they've not won a single game in 5. In fact, they drew 4 and lost 1 very heavily against Atletico. So probably not ideal preparation. They've been able to rest players, and La Liga did them a huge favor by pulling their game 48 hours in advance. So they've got more rest, but sometimes, as I've been reminded on my Twitter, a lot of people do believe that essentially causes the exact opposite effect in terms of, you've got the pressure of arriving early. I think Arsenal arrived early in Baku, and they got slapped 4-1 thanks to an Eden Hazard masterclass. So I'm hoping that that extra rest, that extra sort of, you know, when you've got that fluidity in your bones and you've got just the ability to take that momentum forward with you, I think hopefully it'll hold us in good stead. But yeah, they're better well rested. Um, they've been able to rotate, which we haven't. So maybe that's a big factor. But form wise,
Hmm.
definitely with a stronger team. So that's the big verdict for me.
And to be fair, they also did have to beat a much more difficult set of competition heading into getting into the final. I mean, they did play Fiorentina. They beat them 2-1 in the first leg. It was a 2-2 draw in the second leg with the extension into extra time. So it did come down to the wire for both those teams, Real Betis being the team that advanced forward in that match. Just maybe, kind of even looking at a few of those, games. Again, we're recording this a little early. And so some of the players that you might want to talk about that might be available for Real Betis who are not going to be there could be some change between time of recording and when the game happens. But just any major call outs from who we believe would potentially not be available heading into this game that is going to be a big miss for Real Betis.
This is an interesting one because I think they have pretty much a very clean bill of health. They've got a couple of guys who are doubts. We've talked about their right back, Yusuf Sabali. So he's going to be assessed before the game, so we don't know if he's going to make it. But their right side in general, they've got some experience there. Rubial has been playing, and he's quite good. So I don't think the quality difference is that much. Gio Lo Celso is the one who's the big miss. He's essentially played very well for Betis this season. Obviously, also featured in the goals and assist column. So somebody who can provide that kind of impetus from midfield. So he might be the one that is, I think, a pretty good miss for them. And the goalkeeper Fran Vietes is also being assessed, so we don't know whether he's going to make it. And if he doesn't make it, then Adrian, the former Liverpool goalkeeper, is going to be in goal, and he's not had a very good time. So the goalkeeper situation also, I think, is a big question mark. But if Adrian plays, then I think it would be slight advantage to Chelsea.
Things to keep in mind for that one then, but we'll take our first ad break, get out of the way super early so we can get into the style of play, how this Betis team have been getting on. So stay tuned and we'll be right back. All right, Pellegrini's Real Betis. You've got some facts, Sam. You've watched some footage. You have looked at the tape. We'd love to kind of just maybe set for the listener a stage of how they've been playing, how they've been getting on. I know it's more of a 4-2-3-1 system. Love to talk about how they set the pace, what we should expect in this game, which hopefully we resolve things in 90 minutes ourselves with a win.
It's a huge game for Maresca. Like the emotional value is quite terrific. Everybody knows that he used to play for Sevilla, so Betis are an Andalusian club and a big rival of Betis. So that's a personal victory that he's going to savor. And the coach obviously is Manuel Pellegrini, who's he considers sort of his tactical dad. Gave him the opportunity to hone his management skills at West Ham. Yeah, asked him to do training sessions, even allowed him to do the tactical preparation for a game for West Ham against Chelsea, which West Ham actually went on to win 1-0. So lots of faith from him, gave him the confidence to be top level manager. So I think this is from an emotional standpoint a big one for Enzo Maresca. He would want to win this no matter what. But if you talk about just essential tactical bones, then you mentioned it. 4-2-3-1 has been the formation that he's played all season. Friend of the pod, Ollie Glanville, believes that they resemble Brighton, and I do think that's a very good comp, both at their best and at their worst. But if you look at just how the side functions, it's a very swift, high tempo, vertical side. They want to be back to front in the quickest time as possible. They rely a lot on combination play because they have a very high technical floor. You've got guys like Isco, you've got a couple of other technicians in there. Cardoso is quite good. Lo Celso is quite good, has played in the Premier League, so well adapted to the pace there. So they will create those combinations, three-man combinations, try to get it quickly, and then essentially just break from there. But in possession, if you look, 52% average possession, not really very fond of the ball. Although if you do give them the chance, they will keep the ball. But they try to go, use their goalkeeper, for example, with their center backs, like their two center backs, uh, as a back three, and then their full backs essentially hold width like very very wide in build up. So it's almost like a 3-3, but it is to spread your players apart, so the press becomes harder for the opposition team. When you're trying to press their center backs, they go wide, and you then have to curve your center back. Like Jackson will have to go from the center backs to pushing all the way to the touch line to try and get to the fullbacks, and that gives uh, Betis quite a lot of space, quite a lot of time to get out of pressure. And once the ball is there, then they try to come diagonally inside, and from there they either switch to the opposite side or they try and play forward very quickly for the center forward or the wingers. So just whenever they try to build up, just know that it's a trick. It's not really trying to build up. It's sort of provoking you to try and make a move so they can explode from there. So just keep an eye on the wingers, keep an eye on passing options inside, and look out for that switch, because they try to get their wingers in very quickly. We look at the numbers, Dan, and only 22% of Real Betis's attacks have come from the center this season, and that's the joint lowest in La Liga. So don't worry too much about the center. Just keep a very close eye on the flank. And key to this, then, in terms of making the combination play happen, is Isco. He is the number 10. He's given a lot of license to drift to either flank, and he's exceptional from a creative standpoint. He's very, very good from a technical standpoint. Obviously, he was a prodigy at Real Madrid. Didn't quite work out for him, but he will go on each wing, try to combine with Anthony. We'll try to combine with Epte on the other side, and then he will cause those issues. He will try most of all to vacate the center, so he will vacate the number 10 position. And obviously, because you are an attacking midfielder, then the centre backs are quite reluctant to man mark on the wings. So he will find a lot of space in those wide areas. And what usually happens then is, like, one of the pivots, usually Pablo Fornals, arrives very late into those areas to try and shoot or to try and get an opportunity to receive unmarked in those zones outside the box. So that's essentially how the backline works along with the midfield. And it'll just be manipulating and trying to get back to front very, very quickly.
All things to kind of keep in mind and focus on. We did have a question though from Leojic on just what's the best tactical strength for Real Betis. I mean, I think there's maybe things like out of possession play that would be interesting to kind of highlight and how they get involved there. And I think there's some wide threat that they offer that we should just be very cautious in, particularly considering that with the way that we press forward, the way we invert our fullbacks, that could be an area where Maresca is going to really want to circle around and hone in on as could be exploited and just need to really have our heads on a swivel.
You hit the nail on the head. So it is, again, like a Premier League side does, to try and utilize their wide forwards or just trying to get the ball to them 1v1. The key here is Anthony and Abde. So they are very good 1v1 and the most direct threats for Betis. So trying to get the ball to them early is what Betis try to do. Out of possession, they go into various shapes. They've gone into a 4-4-2. They've got into a 4-1-4-1. They've even gone into sort of like a diamond in 4-1-3-2. So it will be trying to make the center little compact, try to win the ball. They even go extremely narrow and compact, so try to prevent you to go into the center. And once they win the ball, then they try to get it either to the wide players or Isco, who is obviously the number 10. He can push forward and join the center forward in a 4-4-2. So he's essentially the free man. He's the license to pick up the ball in pockets when the ball is turned over, or Betis, try a counter pressing maneuver and they win the ball in those central areas. He's the one who's usually like free and tries to collect the ball. So he's got 9 goals and 8 assists. So whenever he tries to get the ball on the break, just know that he's very wily. He has some great footwork. He's able to evade you very quickly and then has the eye for a pass. He will go directly to either Bakumbu or Cucho, whoever the center forward is, or essentially just switch very quickly to Anthony 1v1 against your fullback, or the other way around and try to make inroads from those flanks. So that's Isco is, I think, key. And Betis' tactical strength is trying to go into that 4-4-2, trying to win the ball in those central areas and then recycling it very quickly. It's what their bread and butter is, and that's something that you have to be careful about. One thing they do very well, for example, Dan, is the far side winger. So when they don't have the ball, the winger on the far side is essentially always holding a half and half position. So he's not very tight to his man. He's somewhere between his man as well as an empty space, because the moment the ball is won, Betis will try and get that out ball. Then it allows the far side winger to, disengage from his man and go into a position where he's able to receive free, unmarked, and then mount the transition. So just keep a close eye on that far-sided winger and make sure that they don't have time to receive. I think that's a key tactical strength for them. And up front, I would say that they've lost quite a lot of quality in Asan Diao, who I was watching very closely as a wing wide forward threat. Vitor Roque, who's a Brazilian talent, who was very highly rated, went to Barcelona and did not work out. He was there, and both he and Diao essentially left, and that left a little bit of a hole in attack. And they did a deal for Cucho Hernandez, who's come in, and in his limited time, he's been quite good at centre forward. So it'll be quite interesting to see whether he starts there or Cedric Bakambu starts up front. And both of them are slightly different level of centre forwards. They will compete for first balls. Um, Cucho is more of a, takes long pop shots, very good high pressing forward, while Wakumbu is running behind, tries to get, play off the shoulder, gets 1v1 to try and finish. Hasn't really scored a lot this season. He's got, what, 2 goals and 2 assists in close to 1,000 minutes, so not really prolific. And it's all about, for me, the wide players. Those are the guys who will cause a lot of issues, will get to those second balls, will try and get 1v1 and
Sure.
essentially get inroads for Betis. So keep an eye on Isco. Lo Celso is obviously very good also. So those are the guys who caused a lot of damage. Isco, for example, is the only player in the league for them who's crossed 15 GA, and the other guys are essentially struggling to get anywhere close. So the goals come from him creatively as well as the final product. So just keep close to him. Be careful of his tricks. He's an extremely good dead ball specialist. Betis are quite good from set pieces. They've scored, I think, 12 or 13, which is fourth or fifth in La Liga. And Isco's deliveries are a peach, especially the wide free kicks. Exceptional. The accuracy, the power, the precision on those deliveries is quite dangerous. So please do not give away corner kicks or wide free kicks. Just keep it clean, keep it nice and safe in those areas, and hopefully we should be able to minimize the chaos.
And then any other things that we want to consider on the strength side before we kind of move to weaknesses, or we think the areas that they are going to most likely decide to exploit?
Yeah, I think for them, the strength is essentially trying to make sure that try to hit us, with a counter press, try to win the ball in those deeper areas and exploit. Maybe like Kukureya pushing up on the left hand side. Anthony is going to be there, so maybe that's a kind of contest that they feel is quite doable, because you've got obviously Kukureya coming in on his weaker side to defend on his right foot if Anthony goes in. So that's something that they will be watching with great interest. You also know that Caicedo has quite a lot to do in midfield. He is, the fireman who puts out multiple fires. He's also somebody who does a lot in build up. So those spaces they will try to exploit via Isco trying to cause issues, and then one of the pivots arriving very late, away from Caicedo's, eye range, and trying to shoot or get some good efforts in. So tactically, I think we're well suited. If I were to look at the game, I'm pretty much saying that, yeah, we are well prepared. I don't really see where Betis can look at us and say, oh, there's a huge vulnerability. So it could be. I mean, finals are just unpredictable, Dan. You and I know this. Like, it's just sometimes variables are so volatile that you can't really put in a finger on something that might happen, might not happen. So I would just say do what you've been doing. Take it nice and safe. in the first 15, 20 minutes and settle down and then go for it after that. That's what we've done against United. That's what we've done against Liverpool. And hopefully we'll be able to do it here as well.
I mean, I guess is in terms of ranking it, if you're saying, hey, out of all the weaknesses and areas you can attack, if there was one that you were most excited for Enzo Maresca to go after and circle, what's the one?
There are quite a few, Dan, from a vulnerability perspective. The one thing that consistently stands out for me is Natan, who is their central defender. So, from an individual perspective, he is, in my opinion, quite weak and lapses in concentration. I've seen, more than 2, 3 games where he's misjudged the flight of a ball against Fiorentina. He tried to head the ball and missed it completely, and it essentially gave the ball to Moise Kean in a 1v1 position. Unfortunately, the touch was very heavy, but he makes those mistakes all the time. I think that's something that you have to keep an eye on. If you get 1v1 with Nathan, especially for Nico Jackson, cause a lot of issues. Try to run at him, try to make him, you know, put that hesitation in his head to try and tackle you in the wrong area, to try and make that mistake. He isn't agile, he isn't very quick, in my opinion, with his feet. So try and get him to manipulate that, give him a that kind of problem where he's had to shuffle, had to adjust his body orientation very quickly, and you might get a big issue out of them. The centre backs in general, Dan, I think both can be exploited. Batra and him are quite reluctant to step out uh, from their positions. So the key player for us, Dan, is going to be Cole Palmer. And what Barcelona did really well and consistently was that they used Lewandowski to pin both the centre backs, and Ferran Torres was standing just a few yards away from Lewandowski and in complete space where he was able to receive in the pocket. And the moment you punch the ball to him, to Ferran Torres, who receives in space, none of the centre backs are quite sure like which one should step out, whether you should leave Lewandowski 1-on-1 with your defensive partner. So create that hesitation. Whenever you try to get close to Ferran Torres, it created this issue with runs coming from wide. So you saw their fullback essentially running into space. You also saw for the goal Gavi, who was playing as the number 8, pushed into an underlapping position, ran back beyond the last line, unmarked, got 1v1, and essentially finished off. So I would say for Nico Jackson, this is not so much about dropping or creating a lot of issues. I think it would just be try to pin both your centre backs and try to keep them from stepping out to Cole Palmer. The moment you do that, the pivots are quite slow. There might be enough space for Palmer to collect the ball in those areas and make some magic happen. So I think that's the big thing. I would say I would completely encourage Palmer to go for long shots. I would encourage him to try and get the ball, clip it behind in that little space behind the centre backs for Jackson, for runners, offer a lot of off ball runs. Like I hated the fact that Noni did not do this in the last game. Try to make off ball runs into the box for some nice clip passes, and there is a lot of scope to exploit them. The second, Dan, is again tactical. I think the double pivot is very prone to being exploited. Cardoso, and they've done one of Almeida and Fornals on the other pivot, but a lot of times when they go into their 4-4-2, it's an aggressive out of position structure. So they want to press, they want to win the ball back. Sometimes they go 4-1-3-2, so it's quite an adventurous press. They did that against Fiorentina to try and negate that triple midfield. When they try and press that quickly, then you've got the opportunity to exploit the double pivot. And Fiorentina did this by placing, 3 midfielders against their midfield pivot. So you have an extra man there in the center. Barcelona played a diamond, and they were essentially able to place multiple people in those pockets and make them free for line breaking passes. So Colwell again, Key, Tosin tried a couple of them. So if you can find one of those, players in between lines, then you can create a lot of issue for Cardoso and Fornals, who aren't the quickest, who aren't really defensively monsters like Caicedo. So I think there's enough scope for you to try and take a little risk centrally and exploit them in those positions. So the midfield pivot is going to be key for me. The defense, also has a tendency to skew very narrow out of possession. So sometimes when they lose the ball, it's just the back line is holding the width, even sometimes like narrower than the width of the box. So switches work very well. If Enzo is looking for one on the left hand side, then as soon as you receive the ball, try to hit that switch for Noni Madueke versus their left back, which I think is the weak area. If I'm looking at Roman Perro, who should start there, could be Ricardo Rodriguez. Both those guys can be exploited. So the key isolating tactic for me would be a switch from Enzo Fernandez straight to Noni Madueke versus their left back, and that will create a lot of issues. I think lots of shooting opportunities, lot of chances to go and create mayhem. So that's something that I'm watching very closely. But yeah, I think it's just narrow out of possession structure. Mounting transitions through your fullbacks works very well. So don't be surprised if you see Kuku bombing forward from left back and trying to make a lot of inroads on that left flank in space and going as high, even higher than whoever's playing at left wing to collect the ball there and mount transitions and try to get across into the box. So those are the tactical issues, and lots of them, as you can see. So it's not a side that's impervious or immune to being exploited.
Things that should hopefully leave people with a smile listening to that part of the episode here when thinking about the fact that there are many ways that Enzo Maresca and this Chelsea team can get at Real Betis and look to cement themselves as winners in this last competitive fixture of the season. But we're going to take our last ad break. When we come back, it is a couple more listener questions. Again, these are the ones that Sam are going to throw at me to try to figure out how Enzo Maresca might handle the situation on the day before we get to our on the ledge predictions, our last ones for the 24-25 season. So stay tuned and we'll be right back. All right, Sam, you put the call out. You asked for some questions. The listeners delivered. Why don't you throw me a few and I will try to put on my Enzo Maresca cap and figure out how he might handle or how he might take those on the day.
I think that we've got some very good questions. So Sam McMullen, who's a really, really lovely guy on Twitter, he's given us the first big one, and he says, "What's a realistic Pep style, no Rodri in Porto, overthinking tactical blunder that Maresca must not make on the night?"
I think this might be a little crazy. I think he could see the team that started against Nottingham Forest, see the team that started against Newcastle, and say, you know what? I know Nico Jackson's available to me. I know that he's been out the last couple games, but maybe I'm just going to ride the good vibe energy going on right now and not start Nico Jackson. And I know someone's going to hear me say this and be like, wait a minute, that's absolutely crazy. I can't believe that you would even consider putting that out there into the world. And I'm sorry if it happens and you didn't want it to. I just think that is the type of thing that I could see him doing. Whereas, he is your recognized striker. He does add an additional set of values to what the team can do. He is one of your leading goal scorers this season in a team that, has only been able to score like individual goals over some games recently. Any player who has and can contribute from a goal scoring perspective at a higher level than maybe some of the players we've had on the pitch, I think you have to bring them out there. And I do think it is the 90-minute audition for Nico Jackson's remainder or the next phase of his footballing journey or Chelsea career. Based upon the links we've seen externally, if Chelsea is paying anywhere between, up 80 million euros or more for a striker, like that is the individual who will likely be the first choice striker on this Chelsea football team next season. So I do think that is the type of thing, though, that Enzo Maresca might overthink and we could see happen. But I don't know if you agree or disagree with that one. That's just the first one that comes to mind for me.
That's the exact answer I was thinking of as well. So I think that's the one thing that I look at and say, yeah, that's so phenomenal answer. I think that's the one thing you can say, he had a red card. I think my team deserves to be here, so I'm not going to play it. I think Jackson's influence, especially against a vulnerable centre back duo, could be huge. We've seen how Tyreek George has suffered. We've seen how Pedro Neto has even suffered the last game. So just get your centre forward in there. That advantage has been handed back to you for one big game. Don't throw it away. So excellent choice there. And I would say just not playing Nico Jackson for some reason would be the big error. So well done, Dan. Um, the second is a question that a couple of people have asked, and True Blues here, the sixth stand asks, how do we stop the goat Anthony?
Oh my gosh. You don't stop Anthony. You just let him stop himself. Maybe that's the way to think about it. I mean, he in the conference league has featured in 8 matches, just about 700 minutes, 4 goals, 3 assists. So he's been a pretty strong contributor for Betis in this competition. I mean, his total in La Liga was 5 goals, 2 assists on just under 1,400 minutes. So I mean, you have to stop him the same way you do anybody. I mean, I don't think he's like an over program player, but maybe I'm just like not remembering it right or not vibing it appropriately. But I think he is fine. But I don't know if I would make my entire game plan something I would put around him. But you could tell me if I'm correct or incorrect.
Well, I think he is definitely a key part of how they want to score. So the easiest thing to do with him is you just block the inside lane as much as possible. So Kukureya should almost be anticipating, him cutting in on his favored left side to try and whip a shot to the far post. He loves doing that. Although he has shown a little bit of a increased tendency to also hit the byline, but when he gets in those positions, the cross with his right foot is a little weaker than what it usually is. So I would just say if you want to try and create an issue, it's just one is you block off his favorite lane. So ask Kukureya to start a little inside and try to usher him towards the byline where he can be a bit of a non-entity with his right foot. And even better if you can just make sure that you're keeping possession and pushing him further and further, deeper and deeper into his own half to defend. The moment you're able to do that for sustained spells, then the amount of work he has to do going forward tends to accumulate and create a huge load factor. So try and push him in, try and drag him deeper, and make sure that you keep an eye on him on breaks. I think you don't really have to double up on him so much. Obviously, like whoever's on the left hand side will have to create that issue in terms of offering support and making sure that 2v1s don't happen. But I think if you're just clever with the way that you defend him and make sure that he doesn't get shots away, you can frustrate him. So that's definitely what I would keep an eye on. But yeah, he's been on fire. Let's not make any bones about it. He's definitely going to be one of their more key attackers for us to stop. So
Yeah, I think maybe the way I was thinking about it was more that if I'm choosing one person to try to isolate out of the game, it's Isco over Anthony. That just would maybe be where my mental thinking was.
absolutely, absolutely. But the thing is, like then, it is a side that has a couple of guys on the more senior fringes. I would say Isco is one of them. He's 33, not really somebody who's an incredible presser. So out of possession, you can create a lot of issues for him. It's the problem is when he gets on the ball. So the best thing to do is when you want to stop them, you block off Isco, like you said, you cut their supply line altogether. And the moment you do that, then Anthony's going to get frustrated. Then Abdi on the other side is going to say, what am I supposed to do? So when you stick somebody on Isco and when you get Caicedo to make those tackles, and I think he has to be a little careful, Caicedo, because Isco is very capable of winning fouls and getting an early yellow from Caicedo. So just be tight to him, make sure that he doesn't get those balls away. But yeah, suffocate him. And that's a job for Caicedo. He has to definitely do that. And the rest, I mean, there's a lot of pace on the left hand side from Abdi, so you will have to offer a little bit of room for management there on the other flank. And we've got some good hardworking right wingers, so I'm not worried about it. Anthony, I think it's just stopping his shots. That's a that's the one thing that you can do. If you limit him to like one shot in the entire game, then you've done your job right, in my opinion. So yeah, the third one is from Ethan, and Ethan asks, with Maresca going up against one of his managerial idols, will he try something different for that reason?
I mean, have we felt like Enzo Maresca tries a lot of different things occasionally? I mean, just he did, I think, kind of move away from some of his tactical setups to get us across the line here at the end of the season and make some adjustments there. But I don't see him doing much differently. I think he's going to want to be pragmatic about it. I think he's going to want to get a result. I think he has kind of started to identify who his best players or the patterns of play that he likes to see on the pitch. He's got people who've come back into better form at the end of the season, like Reece James being available to contribute is such a massive boost for the team. You have Moises Caicedo has continued to be so consistent. Even some of the goalkeeping play, while not perfect, has improved over the last few matches. So there's enough there that I think he is going to not or remain risk adverse to disturbing his normal order of thinking and trying to expect something different to happen from this team. Like, I think the Pedro Neto, or Cole Palmer false nine or something is not happening to start this game. Like that would not be something I would expect him to try. Nor would I expect some like crazy, true back five or something to be the way that he kind of puts it out there. Like I don't see it. I don't see him doing crazy things. It's not what I associate with Enzo Maresca.
So you're saying that there's no inverted center forward on the cards. That's what you're saying.
The inverted center forward. Look, that would just be a real cool thing to roll out in a Conference League final for sure.
No, but I think the one thing, I completely agree with you. If I were to see what Maresca has done in the Conference League, and something that would work very well against something like a Betis would be the kind of three diamond three that he's played. So essentially arranging, and he does this a lot against like back fives where the midfield diamond is trying to throw off the midfield. And we've seen against Barcelona that the diamond works. It's essentially keeping three players in proximity of that midfield pivot and causing a lot of issues in terms of, creating space for Palmer, in terms of just making sure that you're offering a little bit of room to get in those areas and get some nice line breaking passes through the center to Palmer. I think trying to manipulate the pivot, that works very well. So I would say a diamond midfield works, but you also know Enzo Maresca is very pragmatic. He's not going to be somebody who, like you said, goes for it from minute one. He's going to sit back. He's going to probably have like a very calm 15, 20 minutes. Make sure you don't concede. Make sure you keep it nice and tight. And then from that moment onwards, you'll essentially start seeing little things happen. But like you said, maybe safe is the mantra here. Just minimize the variables in the final, and then see what you can do in after the first half is done, basically, then play your cards.
I mean, things to definitely consider. So as we're considering those, though, would it be time to lock in some on the ledge predictions here, Sam? Do you have something that you've circled as could be the most interesting on the ledge prediction you produced all season?
Oh, well, I hope so. I hope I get this right. But I'm going to chalk in out of the box goal for us, and it probably comes to Cole Palmer. Yeah, I think we score from outside the box, and it comes from Cole Palmer. That's my on the ledge prediction, seeing everything that we've seen. So I would love to hear yours. Dan, is there one extreme sort of prediction that you see happening here?
I think it's not going to be a standard attacker who scores the winning goal for Chelsea. That is my on the ledge part. So think about maybe the way that I would frame that to couch it appropriately. So I'm thinking about that there's Cole, Nico, Enzo, Nani Madueke, Pedro Neto, Jadon Sancho gets you the top goal contributors from 7+ in the league this season. I mean, if you want to take it to all competitions, obviously bring Nkunku back in there. Joao Felix is still like at 9, has more than a couple other players on our team. I'm trying to figure out who it is. I honestly, I feel another Marc Cucurella goal in this game. Like, I just think there's something about this that is just going to happen, and he's going to get another goal, and we're going to get a goal celebration from him. And I don't know if it's like we win 2-1 or we win 1-0 or we win 3-2. Hopefully it's not like that, but I do think he scores the winning goal. that's my on the ledge prediction.
I like that. I definitely like that. I genuinely see like Palmer and Nico Jackson having very good games. And whenever we've played European finals, the under fire attackers have come good. Like Fernando Torres'
Mm,
cameo in the
sure.
UCL was very good. He went and he scored that crucial goal for us, before Brana sealed the deal for us against Benfica. So who knows? This might be, like you said, Nico Jackson's addition to try and say my Chelsea future is secure. So I need to go and do something that nobody expects me to do. So those two guys are the ones I'm watching. But I wouldn't write anything against the Kukureya goal or assist. I think the weaknesses are there. I think you can create a lot of issues. It's just the right side is very strong for me. Betis have some very good players on the right, so I would probably say the left is where the magic happens. So maybe Noni, maybe whoever it is, Pedro Neto, or is it going to be center forward or number 10? But Palmer generally looks like the one for me. I'd love to know your predictions. Then, are you thinking of a big win, or tense final and one moment of quality decides this?
I think it's a 2-1 victory to Chelsea, and I think that it is the Marc Cucurella winner that sees it across the line in this one. I don't know if that is a winning goal that happens before we leak one through the back, but I just think there's still a little bit of nerves that might exist in this team, even though they did take a bunch of big steps before the end of the season here. But I think we do enough to get the job done on the day. Chelsea win, and we celebrate winning another trophy.
And that's definitely a wise prediction to go with. I'm feeling a little split. I'm not going to lie.
Oh no!
It's
Don't do this to
like
me.
my no, 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 no. As in like in a good way. I feel like a part of me has
Oh, okay.
watched Betis play in these last 4 or 5 games, and I see us putting up a clinic here. I do think that there's a part of me that thinks it could be pretty bad for them if they don't start well. So there's a part of me that says you should probably go 2-0. I wouldn't even say it's out of the realm of possibility that we score three. I'm not going to be over optimistic or overconfident here. I'm just saying the matchups in terms of where the weaknesses are versus our strengths, it just bodes well for us. But because it's a final and because we've kept what 6 clean sheets in the past 10 games, league games, I would probably say, yeah, it's a good bet to go for maybe like a 1-0 or a 2-0. So one of those two score lines for me, Dan. I think it's going to be a clean sheet. I think it's going to be
Ooh,
some good
okay.
goals, and hopefully we finish it off quickly. It's a nice, comfortable final for everybody to enjoy.
That would just be the best. I mean, we would love a very easy time through it. I mean, look, we kept a lot of clean sheets in the last couple games. I mean, we had the your garden 1-0. We had the 1-0 versus Manchester United, the 1-0 against Nottingham Forest. So I mean, some examples of an ability to do it. So let's see if we can get it done. Let's see if Chelsea do end up adding another European trophy to their collection. Let us know your thoughts if you're on YouTube or on Spotify in the comments on what you think is going to happen in this one. Also, just get involved in our Discord community. Leave some 5-star reviews in Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That's always appreciated. But that's going to do it for this one. Again, the final match preview of the 24-25 Chelsea Football Club season, and we will be back with a full match review and tons of other content coming your way, particularly ahead of the Club World Cup and Chelsea's return to the U.S. in the hopes of winning another competition, hopefully on the back of this one. So that's going to do it for this one. But until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.